Welcome, everybody. We are here with the lovely Dev Melbourne. Melbourne, right?
Milburn, yep.
Milburn. And he's here with the movie Wade. So whilst we have you here, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about the movie making process and how the story came about and your involvement in the movie.
Yeah, so the story sort of came out of me trying to figure out a way to put a lot of my interior life on the exterior and sort of project it onto a person that I wasn't necessarily in the visible world to other people, and sort of elaborating on that and building a very short sort of micro narrative around this crazy sort of maladroit office worker who's in a tough position and sort of put upon by the rest of the people around him.
Interesting. And it sounds like you tried to give the actors a kind of experience. We were talking about the 20-hour day shoots and your internal struggle on the outside. Was that something that you consciously did to get the actors really Strasbourging?
It was not initially. It wasn't the initial intention, and it sort of became that. Though it did really help with that. And the lead, Tom Datnow, is the main actor, and I think he really did. It had that effect for him, and it helped him get in the role even more so. He's great at sort of getting in a role and staying in that character throughout a production, but it did not hurt. And it didn't hurt for the crew either, because it sort of gives you that sort of delirious adrenaline that you don't necessarily get when you have a bigger budget and you're working shorter hours, depending on how much people are getting paid, which most people weren't very much. So yeah, I think it did contribute to that.
And so it was like more of a passion project. Did you come out of, did you study in New York, and tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, so I went to undergraduate film school at Tisch School of the Arts at NYU, and I graduated in 2008 and started working in post-production for a couple of years, and then once I got to be about 24 or so, I sort of decided I want to be my own boss and get creative again. And at that point I sort of started working on a lot of music videos and promotional films and short format stuff, and writing and directing narrative short films. And then I sort of got the idea for this short, and then that led to a concept more recently over the past 6 months for a feature film, which is actually an adaptation of two George Saunders short stories. George Saunders is one of the better known short story writers of America right now, and he's been sort of supervising my developing and drafting this feature script, which is sort of thematically linked to Wade, the short, but not so much literally.
Mm-hmm. That's so exciting. And what process are you in with that? Has the script been written, or is it pre-production?
At this point, I've written out extensive outlines. I have a 120-page outline, which is, obviously way too long right now. I have a beat sheet, and I've developed a lookbook that I've shown to a few producers I've been connected to. And right now I'm sort of we're drafting it, and I'm sending him whatever beat sheets and notes I have on what I've come up with, and then he's giving me notes back so it's very interactive right now. And I've gotten, I've made some connections over the past 8-10 years, and that's really helped me to sort of find certain people who've been in the industry for a long time, who are producers and distributors and know a lot about financing films. And they've been really helpful in sort of skimming the fat of the script itself and anticipating budgetary requirements and story pitfalls and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really, really important, especially if you have something big that you want to do and you only have a small budget, then you have to know at that stage that you only want to maybe not do that scene. But do you think you'll be using Tom again in your movie?
Yeah, we talked about it briefly. Right now, I have a couple people in mind who are a little more visible in the mainstream, only because I've had them in my mind for a long time, even before Wade, and because I want it to have some visibility that maybe it wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
But I have talked to Tom about possibly playing a role, the role of a raccoon murdering coworker, to give you a little sort of
Awesome.
seemingly irrelevant snippet.
Well, you heard it here first.
Right. But yeah, I'd love to work with him again. I think he's an incredible actor and really someone who he's had a tough time staying in the States and getting a permanent working visa, which is unfortunate. But despite that, he's had so many close calls and great opportunities. And yeah, I really hope that we can work together again.
I saw him playing the lead at Juilliard, and he was fantastic. And yeah. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about whether you feel it's important to have a name in your feature in order to get exposure.
That's a good question. It's something I'm actually still trying to figure out. I've had people tell me yes, and I've had people tell me not necessarily, but maybe, but sometimes. Part of the reason that I wouldn't have Tom is because the lead of this film would have to be slightly overweight, or possibly a little more than slightly overweight, and I had some slightly overweight character actors in mind. Yeah. But I don't know that that's true, and I think that in certain cases it probably doesn't matter, and in other cases it probably also depends on the story and what type of genre the film is, and who you're trying to appeal to. Yeah. And yeah, and what the budget is, obviously. Yeah. But I think there have been plenty of great films. I know Blue Ruin was a great film that came out, I believe, in 2013, 2014, that had a somewhat of a no-name. And there have been plenty of others, Raising Victor Vargas, and then there have been a lot of others where they sort of used talent that were slightly recognizable from other indie features. Yeah. But that's a good question. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of that a bit. Yeah.
And if you could sort of coin your style in like maybe 2 sentences, what would you say like your main kind of genre, unique selling point is in the industry?
I'd say black comedy thriller.
Lovely.
with a touch of absurdist, an absurdist edge.
Yeah, so quite New York-ish, like there's...
Yeah, the New York landscape sort of helps with that.
Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of helicopters. I just want to know, like, because obviously that's like a massive part of the Cannes Film Festival, the glamour and the glitz. Yeah. What's your experience been about being here first time at Cannes? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I think there's everything is brand spanking new for me. This is my first time. And so when I see people coming in on helicopters, and I was talking to my fiance, her cousin is financing a film here, and he was talking about taking a trip to Saint Tropez on an Uber helicopter, which I didn't know was available.
Glam.
And there are a lot of other sort of new fancy glitzy things, and people, and it's just in general it's just beautiful to look at. Whether it's just looking out at the pavilions with the sun bouncing off the white pointy tents, or just walking along and seeing all the people and all the beautiful artists and lovers of art.
You have a very poetic description of the Cannes Film Festival. Well, thank you. Yeah. No, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. We're off to find a helicopter. Yeah. Wish you all the best. Thanks.